After completing my degree in fine arts, I wanted to continue sculpting, but I didn't know exactly which direction to take. What first caught my attention was a crochet and a spool of rope. So I taught myself the basic knots and began to make three-dimensional work. I remember being totally thrilled when discovering all the possibilities that was offered to me. I could make multiple structures in a wide range of patterns and textures. This is when I decided to make sculptures with the use of fiber only. Since then, it has become a very stimulating art form. I work instinctively, experimenting with different materials and techniques. I never know in advance what the end result will be. Each project is a new challenge that usually leads to a different practice. Did you know that crochet dates as far back as ancient Egypt? It was introduced in Europe in the 16th century. It's not until recent years that it became popular worldwide, with application in commercial items and fashionable clothing. A key aspect of my work is the merging of ancient techniques into fibered art. I have experimented with techniques such as knots, crochet, weaving, and needlework that I adapted for each project and innovated over the years. My first pieces of white crocheted sculptures were more structured and symmetrical. White has a different meaning depending on a person's cultural background or the intention you want to give. My work suggests both the idea of life that relates to beauty and greatness, or the extinction of life in the occurrence of the coral bleaching, for instance. Many pieces from my early work looks like coral in their shapes, patterns, and textures. They suggest imagery of the sea and evoke feelings such as peace and wonder. The peace habitat represents the home of thousands of species and is reminding us of the importance of coral and biodiversity because of the role they play in their relationship with so many other species. When I choose a title, I try to get as close as possible to my concept, but I also like to give the viewer the opportunity to create their own images. Sometimes I refer to mythology because I feel that it belongs to all of us. It's kind of a bridge between the ancient and the new world, and I think that these inspiring tales can still apply today. Crochet is all about loops of yarn and patterns that you are either increasing, decreasing, or grouping. Just like mathematics when you are adding, subtracting, and applying geometry. However, the trick is to be consistent and to apply the good tension in order to achieve uniformity in your work. I created this piece while anticipating the birth of my child. During that year, my work evolved into a series of tubes attached tightly together to form into a narrow channel, which reminded me of the birth canal. I named it Passage. In contrast to these white sculptures, I created black hangings made out of recycled fishing nets. I used mainly knots and bands, so my work became irregular, shapeless, and raw kind of looking. I knotted and twisted them in a ragged kind of way to show deterioration in reference to the depletion of the seafloor. Curtain of Death is another reference to those long dragging nets and the destructive methods still used in commercial fishing today. I remember those practices being a concern when I produced this work in 1989, more than 30 years ago. Icarus was made out of willow branches. In the story, he was the son of a craftsman who made wings out of feathers and wax so they could escape from the prison. He flew too close to the sun, his wing melted, and he fell into the sea. When relating these mythologic tales to the environmental crisis that we are facing today, I often feel that we are getting too close to the sun and that we need to quickly change our trajectory. After experimenting with natural and synthetic fibers, I decided to introduce color into my work. I explored with pigments that were able to give me very intense and bright colors. The result was satisfying, but I soon discovered the toxicity of those products. Adding colors to my work was another way to highlight the astounding beauty of the seas and further express my fascination for this amazing world. For this project, I used only sail nuts. Once I find the idea, my hands lead the way. Colors and textures appear simultaneously and form into an elevated mushroom. Here I want to bring out the idea of vestige and the importance of the ancient forest upon which so many species depend. When something catches my attention and that the ideas emerge, I choose materials spontaneously. For this project, I used linen, beechwood, synthetic fiber, and I assembled them together using sail nuts. In the last decade, I committed myself to employ only recycled material, introducing vibrant colors with the use of discarded rolls of foil plastic that was given to me abundantly. I want to promote the idea of reusing in the process of making art. Sometimes the title emerges because of a funny event that happened. One day, my daughter found a young crow which had been abandoned. She called him Bibo. He was our pet for nearly 3 weeks. When we left food for him on a rock in the garden, Bibo was choosing to hide his food in the sculpture I was working on. So I had to call that one Bibo's feeder. What I imagine in the depth of the oceans and what I see in the shallow waters has a wonderful and a mysterious character. Oceans are fascinating with the countless creatures that comes in all shapes and colors. They inspire me a lot. When you recycle materials, it adds to your task. A large-scale project can take a year to a year and a half to complete, and perhaps more if you include the transformation process. Making art can be meticulous, laborious, and even tough at times. But no matter what the challenges are, it's always worth it and a lot of fun. As a species, we probably all have a connection to the oceans since they are the beginning of life on Earth. Umbilicus is a hole at the center of the shell's whorls. It is also the navel which brings us back to the umbilical cord and our birth. I always wonder where the name of the jellyfish man-o'-war came from. Apparently, it was because of its resemblance to a sailing warship, the Portuguese man-o'-war. In French, jellyfish is called méduse. The word comes from the Greek mythology Medusa. It is a tale of a woman who had snakes for hair. She was so scary that anyone who gazed upon her was turned to stone. So the hero, Perseus, had to look using the reflection in his shield in order to destroy her. My concerns for environmental issues have always stirred my art. My challenge is to achieve a harmonious interaction between art and nature. The piece Common Unity is designed to showcase the beauty of honeycomb and to bring attention to the cause of our planet's most remarkable and essential pollinator, the honeybee. The blue whale is the largest mammal that ever existed on Earth, measuring up to 100 feet in length. It is endangered as many other whale species. These magnificent creatures have lived around 50 million years to evolve into this magnitude. The thought of this gentle giant disappearing from the face of the planet worries me a lot. With this project, I focused on sustainability by using only upcycled material. I use tarps as canvas, and I transform rolls of plastic foil into 100 spools of 1/16-inch cord. in 4 shades of blue, black, and silver. Then I made a 12-inch scale model of the future project, which will be 20 feet long. I used paint as guideline for the upcoming stitching. Back home, I could just fit in my studio as long as the canvas remained rolled up. The rope is sewn side by side using fishing line. I was stitching an average of 8 to 9 hours a day during 2.5 years, which represent 2,500 hours in total. I sew from below the canvas to the top, applying a good tension always, so that the work stays as uniform as possible. Once the tapestry is completed, I reinforce the outskirt and the inside with rubber latex and recycled fabric. I had a wood bench made to fit the edge of the whale's head. Then I stretched the tapestry inside out over the bench and draw the contour. Bags of sands were used to stretch the canvas. I calculated the length of each arc at a foot distance. Recycled aluminum was used for making the curved frame. This labor of love is a tribute to the blue whale, the largest mammal that ever existed on Earth. A big hug to all of them.